Program Director, President of Agri SA Congress, Vice President of Agri SA Phineas Gumede, Chief Executive Officer Agri SA Christopher Derriede, National and Provincial Agri SA leadership, farmers, input suppliers, and food value chain players, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from Namibia, where we've got the binational commission between South Africa and Namibia, which presents a better opportunity for me as the Minister of Agriculture to engage on some of the matters that are affecting our agricultural industry at home in respect of the Namibian market. When one finishes such a meeting, we endeavor to brief accordingly the producers so that you can actually appreciate how we are trying to resolve this matter as the two governments. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege to address this Congress, which for the next 2 days will propose, debate, and decide on practical solutions that will lead to the certainty of food security in the country. I must commend the leadership of Agri SA for selecting the theme of food certainty. As we are gathered here, we should be proud of our sector, which has outperformed all economic sectors in the past 3 years. At the same time, we must ask questions: have we done enough to achieve food security for our country? Agricultural performance and food security. Since 2019, the agricultural sector has performed well despite the challenging conditions mirrored by the COVID-19 pandemic, electricity issues, biosecurity threats, and weather-related constraints. Today, the size of the agricultural economy is 25% larger than it was 3 years ago. Agricultural exports have expanded by 47 billion rands, and the sector has generated about 52,000 new jobs, while the rest of the economy shed jobs. I'm highlighting these points because at times our success is overshadowed by the negative sentiments and duality problems, a challenge which we must address. As we celebrate the success, we must also prepare for the tough times ahead as we approach the El Nino weather cycle. We must also be cognizant that our present successes should also benefit the majority of South Africans. It will be difficult to celebrate the agricultural sector when there are 30 million South Africans who are unable to afford or produce their own food. It is a fact that the social and economic ills of the country cannot be resolved by agriculture alone. It is equally true that agriculture holds a special role in our society and is expected to do more to contribute to the national agenda of food security, employment creation, and equality. To unlock the potential of agriculture, we need to work together as government, industry, labor, and communities to resolve inefficiencies and bottlenecks in our food system. The other important matter that we can resolve working together is the security of our agricultural sector in terms of issues of crime, stock theft, and others, which indeed we should continue to work with our security cluster to ensure that this matter is dealt with. It is equally important that when we look at the potential of the sector, we also need to look at diversity of our country. The new entrants in agriculture, not only in terms of race, but also in terms of women and youth who are coming into this sector, how do we make sure that they remain and are sustainable thereof? This would require a kind of level of working together such that we can succeed. But also, how do you take advantage of new markets? Working with our government, we're excited, particularly that we have been able to unlock market access for beef in Saudi Arabia as well as in China, who have just reopened after they closed as a result of foot-and-mouth. We're happy that our avocado industry is now also gaining access into the Chinese market. Soon I will be concluding a deal with Japan on avocado. And as we work with our industries, we are mindful of some of the stresses that some of our industries are facing, particularly when it comes to issues of market access, such as the citrus industry. We're still continuing to work tirelessly, working with the industry and the Department of Treasury and the Presidency on how we address the issue of protectionism in the European market. Our strategy for market access is about retention, which means we retain the markets that we're in, but also expansion, because we want to further open up opportunities. But in dealing with those issues, we also need to strengthen our sanitary and phytosanitary measures. We need agility in respect of our import and export permits. We also need flexibility on how, as industry, government, we can work together. Last year in May, we signed the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan. We effectively agreed to work together in addressing the issues of land as well as water rights, infrastructure, policy uncertainties, food insecurity, and export. We also agreed that building resilience against climate change is a must, and growing the agricultural sector in an inclusive manner is the right thing to do. Unfortunately, the collaboration between government, labor, and industry still remains weak and sometimes ad hoc. 2 weeks ago, we convened the Agriculture Agro-Processing Executive Oversight Committee to remind ourselves of the commitments we have made. In that meeting, we agreed that in the next 3 weeks, we will establish the AMMP delivery models as we had agreed, ensure that they are well represented, and then reconvene at the end of November as the Oversight Council to take stock of progress and priority areas for the sector. In this instance, we have also agreed that in looking at our institutional mechanisms that were agreed upon, we need to make sure that we strengthen our security and coordinating capability so that these institutions are functional, because their job is to work. It is important, therefore, to also ensure that we prioritize and not spread ourselves thinly, then we can be able to address challenges. I must say that this collaboration of working together, even though some weaknesses can be observed, there are instances where we've shown that we can actually leverage to our best. Interestingly, the dynamic of the poultry industry. Just last month with Minister Patel, we actually opened up a shift in Rainbow in KZN in Hammersdale, which was closed in 2017 as a result of those surging imports that actually affected a number of poultry industry. But working together systematically and within the Poultry Master Plan, we were able to reopen that shift, and Rainbow took a very wise decision to actually re-employ the people that they had laid off at the time. And one had seen in the eyes not only of workers, but of the community of Mpumalanga in Hammersdale, how this reopening of a shift is going to change the livelihoods in that province and in that township in particular. But we know that our poultry industry currently is facing some stresses with respect to the avian flu. And we are, through this collaborative engagement, working together. We've had consultations meeting with the producers, the farmers. We've also had engagement with the agribusinesses and the retailers to really look at what we need to do together to face the challenge that is upon us. And one hopes that in this working together, we'll be able to find amicable solution, despite at times some of the different positions that we take in looking at these matters, sometimes within the industry. One of the vexing debate at the moment is whether we vaccinate, and if so, do we vaccinate as a measure of urgency, which would also require that we need to decide whether we actually vaccinate the breeding stock. But we all know that vaccination alone is not a panacea to all the challenges. Biosecurity is still one of the important things that we must push for. But also, we need to make sure that the vaccine that we introduce, if we so agree, will actually be efficient. It will actually be of quality. It would deal with the strain that we're having. And at the same time, it is safe for the workers, for the owners, as well as for the consumers. Because we pride ourselves as South African poultry industry and agricultural industry as a whole as the best in what we do. And we want to retain that. And that is why, even from the ministry side, we have been able to communicate a positive message to our consumers that what we produce, what is on their shelves, is safe. But I'm just highlighting this as a matter where, even if there might be differences of opinion, from the vantage point, we need to find one another. From the government side, we've been able to allow those who want to register their vaccines in terms of Act 36, and the evaluations are ongoing so that we can see the efficacy, the safety, and quality of the proposed vaccines. But at the same time, we have noted the weaknesses in our own vaccine factory, which we are strengthening. We will be taking the memorandum to Cabinet for the appointment of the new board on the support biological products. And we want to say it has really not been a good year for our farm sector in terms of how we have been able to meet your demands in terms of vaccination, in particular from our local company as government. And we have been working to look at ensuring that we register more South African companies who can actually be of good standing, produce in a manner that will satisfy our local market, while we strengthen OBP. I also want to indicate, Program Director, that I'm harboring public-private partnerships. I'm humping on public-private partnerships because they have the potential to quickly and effectively solve our problems. They build trust among each other and bring positive confidence to invest in the sector. What I've always liked is that even where we sometimes differ, we do so in a respectful way, but also in a collegial way where we said, maybe on this one we can agree to disagree and go back to the negotiating table and say, how do we work at it again? Because for me, that actually should be in the DNA of us as South Africa. Because together, if we stand together, we succeed. But if we actually go in diverse way, we fail. We would not have launched the Agri Energy Fund in August 2023 if it wasn't for the research and collaboration between industry and government, which elevated the negative impact the load shedding was having on agriculture and food sectors. And this has actually helped us. Though we understand that the quantum may not be enough, but it would go some long way in addressing this challenge that we're facing. Collaborations between industry and government have yielded great results on the market access front, as I've indicated earlier. Today, our avocados and citrus have industry as well as the commodities have access to China as well as in the Middle East and others. We will take advantage of the upcoming AGOA forum on our shores, again, to use that platform to be able to open up further market access for our agricultural goods. Our meat and animal products are actually giving us an opportunity that we can go further in other markets. So is our grains, so is our fruits, and many other commodities. And I must say that even on the vaccine question of the European Union stance that they've taken, we are continuing to engage, and I'm definite that we will succeed. It might not be a short-term matter, but I'm certain that we'll be able to find a way in which we can ensure that our citrus industry is not worse off. I must explain the approach we've taken as government. We've opted to retain the diplomatic engagement with the AU at the technical, ministerial, and head of state level, and our president is also involved in this matter. At the same time, we are exploring our options to settle trade disputes within the WTO. The third pillar of our approach is to find alternative markets outside Europe for citrus. Hence, China, the US, and others have already accepted our citrus. Program Director, on your issue of food certainty, which I share in this theme, from various consultations as we went towards our World Food Summit, it was clear that the path towards a sustainable, transform and competitive food system requires us to draw on scientific and traditional knowledge and share policy choices. Moreover, we need to focus our efforts on the following strategic areas: support local production for local and export consumption, improve food safety and traceability in our plants and animals, reintroduce agricultural topics in our school curriculum, build networks of resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses, balancing interests in exports and local production, address the food waste problem, and invest in the informal markets. These are some of the measures that will enhance food certainty in our country. Public-private partnerships will then be a cornerstone in achieving these measures. I'm certain that you will expand on these and dive deeper during the debates and discussions in the next few days. I want to wish you a fruitful and exciting engagement at your conference. I also wish to extend a word of appreciation to the outgoing leadership of Agri SA and hope the new leadership will continue with the positive engagements with government. As you ponder on the new leadership, I encourage you to consider the parameters of experience, knowledge, and inclusivity. I thank you.